No one in the world, no fan, no follower, not even the most seasoned reality TV sleuth could have prepared for the bombshell that just cracked open the foundation of everything we thought we knew about Jackie Christie, her marriage, her friendships, her life on screen and off. Because what leaked wasn't just another messy scandal, another housewives-style tiff to trend for 24 hours before fading into meme oblivion. No, this was the kind of gut-wrenching, soul-tearing, irreversible betrayal that doesn't just stain reputations, it detonates entire identities. A secret audio recording, the kind no PR team can spin and no contract clause can bury, was leaked. Doug Christie's voice, unmistakably steady and surgical, whispering the kind of calculated venom that turned fans' stomachs and dropped jaws across the internet in collective disbelief. "She's too emotional," he muttered, tone cold and clinical. "We build her up, then we crush her." And then came the twist of the knife. "Malaysia will handle her soft spots." That sentence alone shattered millions of perceptions, for it wasn't just a man dismantling his wife in secret, it was a co-conspirator's name, and not just any name. Malaysia, Jackie's sister in spirit, her ride or die. The woman who wiped her tears on camera, who defended her in front of enemies, who stood by her during every storm and scandal. And now, the very idea that Malaysia was in on it the whole time, planning, manipulating, waiting, was enough to turn the internet into a frenzy. TikTok was flooded with sobbing reaction videos. Instagram comments became war zones, old clips were unearthed like relics, and every scene where Jackie cried was no longer seen as melodramatic. It was now undeniable proof of a woman crumbling under the weight of a silent, relentless psychological ambush. Another leaked tape confirmed the nightmare. Malaysia's voice, disturbingly serene, uttered the words, "She trusts me. I'll break her when you're ready. Just say the word." Emotional assassination, fans called it. Betrayal dressed in glam. And the most heartbreaking part? Jackie had gone silent. No stories, no cryptic tweets. Just an echoing absence from a woman who had once been the emotional epicenter of the show. This wasn't just reality TV anymore. This was real life, real pain, real trauma, and it ripped open the curtain on a brutal truth. Jackie Christie had unknowingly spent years walking straight into an emotional meat grinder, her husband and her best friend holding the blades. When the first tape leaked, most people thought it had to be a joke, a deepfake, a cruel prank. Because Doug Christie, the man who preached loyalty, who cried in therapy, who held Jackie's hand on red carpets, couldn't possibly have orchestrated such cold-blooded destruction. But as the audio clips kept surfacing, uncut and unmistakable, the truth became undeniable. Doug wasn't just annoyed, he was enraged. And not in an impulsive, heat-of-the-moment kind of way. His words were deliberate, strategic, laced with venom and control. "We build her up, then we crush her," he repeated, as if it were a personal mantra. And Malaysia will handle her soft spots wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. Suddenly, fans began dissecting every season, every interaction, every passive-aggressive smirk. Jackie's overreactions, her breakdowns, the crying fits and paranoia that the world dismissed as just Jackie being Jackie. They were evidence. Silent screams of a woman surrounded by vipers. Malaysia, the friend she defended to the grave, had been a spy, a saboteur, a snake in designer heels. Her late-night calls, comforting words, and tearful confessions were weapons disguised as love. One tape had her coldly saying, "The more she breaks, the better our angle." That line alone set the internet ablaze. Better our angle. As if Jackie's unraveling was a scene on a storyboard, as if her mental breakdowns were bullet points in a production meeting. Suddenly, everything felt poisoned. The brunches, the beach trips, the reconciliations, all part of the plan. And then came the third blow, a leaked tape between Doug and a producer, actually laughing, as they discussed how to trigger Jackie's collapse. "Keep the cameras off when she breaks," Doug said. "We need her to explode later." This wasn't just abuse. This was entertainment weaponized trauma. This was emotional warfare sold to the masses as reality TV. Jackie wasn't healing. She was being hunted. She was led into a psychological coliseum and torn apart for ratings, while the people she loved sharpened the swords. Rewinding the timeline, fans now saw the truth with painful clarity. Jackie and Doug were always painted as the last standing love story in a sea of shattered VH1 relationships. They made it through infidelity rumors, therapy sessions, cast brawls, and family drama. But now, that fairy tale was revealed to be a horror story stitched together by lies. But if they thought Jackie Christie would burn quietly beneath the weight of betrayal, grief, and humiliation, they underestimated the indestructible fire that flickered behind her silence. Because what emerged in the days following her scorched earth lawsuit wasn't the broken shell of a reality TV star. It was the rebirth of a woman who had been treated like disposable footage for far too long. And now, instead of waiting for the cameras to exploit her pain again, she was taking control of the narrative and flipping the entire industry on its head. And not just for herself, but for every woman who had ever been gaslit, ghosted, manipulated, or sold out in the name of good television. Because Jackie didn't just file the lawsuit and retreat. She hired a legal dream team, a PR firebrand who once represented Me Too survivors, and a trauma-informed media consultant who helped her craft a digital rollout that felt more like a revolution than a comeback. And within 48 hours, the Christie files began trending as Jackie released redacted fragments of unreleased footage, emails between producers, transcripts of off-camera strategy calls, and most shockingly, NDA-protected group texts between Doug, Malaysia, and certain assistant producers where Jackie was repeatedly referred to as the ticking bomb, the target, and our ratings angel, with emojis that mocked her crying face from season 7. And those screenshots, those smiling emojis sitting next to quotes like, "Let her spiral for the reunion taping," became the most damning evidence of the entire scandal, because they weren't just texts, they were receipts soaked in malice, planning, and the kind of behind-the-scenes evil fans only suspected but never dared to believe was real. And now, Jackie's pain had a paper trail, undeniable and savage, and it sent shockwaves so deep that VH1's top executives held an emergency board meeting not to deny the claims, but to discuss the possibility of rebranding or shutting down the franchise entirely, as the snowball of public fury rolled down the mountain and took out every lie in its path. Malaysia tried once more to reclaim sympathy, sitting down with a D-list YouTuber in a dimly lit apartment wearing oversized sunglasses and crocodile tears as she claimed, "I love Jackie, I really did, I thought it was all part of the show." But when the interviewer asked, "Did you get paid to befriend her?" Malaysia paused for 4 seconds too long before whispering, "Not like you think." And that was enough. Clips of that moment flooded Twitter with captions like, "Guilt has a delay timer," and "She sold her sister for a storyline." And while Malaysia spiraled under the weight of public disdain, sponsorship loss, and being dropped from her talent agency, Jackie rose like smoke from an old battlefield, graceful and unbothered, walking into a New York Times profile interview wearing a custom suit stitched with every headline that ever called her crazy, dramatic, unhinged. Her body literally wrapped in the words that tried to bury her, because Jackie wasn't hiding from the narrative anymore. She was eating it, transforming it, and feeding it back to the world as power. And in that profile, she dropped another bombshell. She had kept her own journals, 27 of them, documenting every day of filming, every emotional reaction she had to strange silences, withheld footage, sudden producer texts that redirected her emotions moments before key scenes, and more chillingly, she included a voice note she recorded in secret the night before the season 9 reunion, a message to herself that said, "I know they're going to try to break me tomorrow, but I'm going to show up anyway. Because I'm still holding on to the hope that someone in that room remembers I'm human." And that message, that heartbreaking, trembling voice of a woman bracing for orchestrated humiliation, ripped through the internet like a spiritual reckoning, because it proved what we all feared, that Jackie knew what was happening, that she sensed the trap, and still walked in because loyalty had been hardwired into her DNA. And now, with that same loyalty turned inward, she was fighting not just to clear her name, but to dismantle the empire that profited from her destruction. And while Doug hid behind his legal team, refusing every interview request, his own son posted a cryptic TikTok. Some stories age like wine, some like spoiled milk, a caption that fans took as a veiled betrayal. as rumors swirled that even Doug's family had begun turning against him in private, questioning how a man who built a legacy of love and family could reduce his wife to an emotional pawn. And as his endorsements crumbled, Nike pulled their ambassador deal, ESPN cancelled his analyst appearance, and a charity gala in Seattle quietly removed his name from the invite list, it became clear that Doug's plan had backfired in the worst way possible, because Jackie wasn't fading, she was evolving. But just when the world thought the fire had finally settled into embers, just when fans began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst of it was behind her, the third wave hit. Not with a scream, not with a scandal, but with the sharp, icy sting of finality, because Jackie Christie, the woman they once branded too much, too loud, too unstable, had now become the blueprint for emotional resistance, and with her courtroom war in full swing, her non-profit empire exploding, and the media unable to deny her truth any longer, a new bombshell detonated. Not another tape, not another betrayal, but a handwritten letter, 11 pages long, discovered folded into the back of one of Jackie's old journals. And this letter wasn't addressed to Malaysia, or Doug, or the producers. It was addressed to herself, to the version of Jackie who first stepped into the VH1 world years ago with open arms and a trusting heart. And in that letter, now published with her permission in Essence magazine, she wrote, "They didn't just film me. They studied me. They fed me dreams and drank my tears." And she went on to recount moments that had never aired. The night she left, set with makeup streaming down her face because a producer told her, "You cry pretty, do it again." The time Doug refused to drive her home unless she agreed to reshoot a scene he didn't like. And the time Malaysia swore on her child's life that the world was out to get Jackie, only to later joke about her paranoia in a crew group chat. And those revelations were more than just diary entries. They were evidence of the kind of long-term emotional exploitation that turns women into punchlines and then calls it television. And when fans read that letter, when they saw the words, "I was their muse and their meal," they didn't just cry, they rioted, online and offline, demanding justice, accountability, and most of all, reform. Because this wasn't about one marriage or one friendship anymore. It was about an entire system that saw emotional breakdowns as clickable moments instead of cries for help. And as Jackie's lawsuit gained momentum,